Hi, I'm Tim Bartz, Internet Sales Manager here at McArthur Ford in Salina, Kansas, your source for Ford news, update, and information with a video on scheduling for this week. And want to kind of tell you a little bit about what is scheduling, what's going on at the factories this week in a way of scheduling of orders. And it's for those people out there that have maybe they placed that order with a dealer and it's still not scheduled for production date. These are the people that probably want to watch this video. If you're already scheduled for production date, then good news. You don't need to worry about that. This will not really reflect you because it won't affect the scheduling of the vehicle in the production of the vehicle. This is just for those orders that are unscheduled. So if you like videos like this or want to join us on our live stream tonight, make sure you subscribe with the bell notification turned on so you don't miss any of our videos. Let's dive in. I do want to kind of update some things. Last week, I think I told you that I thought last week was the last week before moving into April's allocations for those June production dates. We have one more week. So for some reason, I think because of all the news that happened last week and everything else, they pushed it back one more week. So this is the last week of your March allocations that need to be used up for those May production dates. So we're going to go through that. And because of that, not many of the factories are actually scheduling because most of them already took care of anything last week. But there are some factories and some plants that they schedule on a weekly basis. And because of that, you will see some like F-150 and Super Duty that will be scheduling. And then also Transit also is in that same boat. And then for some reason, Maverick and Bronco Sport are scheduled, but all the others are not scheduled. But we'll go through those anyway. And also just remind you of what we talked about last week when it goes to what's going to happen starting next week for June production dates when it comes to some production notes. We'll get into that on each one. So let's dive in and talk about the notes here. And what we're talking about here, we're talking about scheduling of orders. Those orders are placed in an order bank, and it's called the WebDo system for dealers. It's a web-based ordering system, and that's where a dealer places all those stock and retail orders. Now, retail order is that customer-placed order, whereas the stock order is an order placed by a dealer for stock or lot inventory. So if they have allocations but they don't have any retail orders, they'll need to make sure they place stock orders so they can use up those allocations. Priority code, that is a priority that is given to orders by the dealer. Retail orders, those ones for customers, can be anything from an 03 to 19. And for stock, it's 20 to 80, and the lower the better, which is why retail orders are looked at first. And, where that order code will be important is if you have an order that's identical to yours and you want to hope that you have a lower priority, so yours gets looked at. Other than that, it's going to be based on time of when that order is placed. Now, scheduling, that is when Ford schedules an order for production dates in the future months. And the production date is when Ford plans to build your vehicle. Allocations, this is important because Ford gives dealers allocations to schedule their orders. It's kind of like their currency for scheduling of their orders. A dealer needs an allocation to schedule an order in the order bank. So just because you have an order in there and your order is placed does not mean it's automatically going to get scheduled. The dealer needs to earn enough allocations to be able to schedule your order. So if they have more orders than allocations, there's where sometimes we have some difficulties. Some people in there that are like, I've seen other people get scheduled within a week. Why is it that mine's is taking longer than that? Well, it's because you're at a dealership that has a lower amount of orders or a lower amount of allocations, but a higher number of orders. So it's going to take more than just 1 month to get it scheduled. Constraints, that is when an option may be in short supply or take longer to build. If a capacity, that's the planned production rate of a given motor, trim, or option. Those kind of work hand in hand. So if you have a low capacity number but a higher amount of orders, that's where we have that constraint or that situation where it's going to take longer to get scheduled. Job 1, job 2, they'll split the production into several different job runs, and that allows them to be able to introduce something new halfway through the year, or do something they need to do like they are on Maverick and Bronco Sport, where they need to introduce that gas filter because of emissions and constraint emission requirements by the government and by those CARB states. And so they need to even make a job three so that they make sure the vehicles that are built that are going out will have they'll hit those emissions. And then balance out. That's the end of production or the balance out a particular model or option and that kind of thing. Now, usually we see that at the end of the model year. All right, so let's get into this and talk about this. First up is the 25 model year Maverick. So there is currently 789 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up for scheduling, and they are not going to be scheduling for orders for this week. They pretty much scheduled out most of their month. Now, for next month, though, starting which should start next week for new allocations for dealers. Just the only notes in here is that they are going to be scheduled for 4 weeks for June production dates. And they're going to be doing the GT performance package is retail only because of compliance. And on the dark horse, does say limited performance. It looks like the performance pack, the handling pack, I should say, is going to be less than 50% of the capacity. And then let's say the appearance package is also less than 50% of those two. 60th anniversary, I heard they may not be scheduling that next month, but it does say in here 4 weeks of production, but I'm not sure. Thought I saw something where they may not be doing that. So, all right, and that's information for next week, not for this week. All right, next up is a 25 model year Escape. Currently 360 unscheduled retail orders in the order bank. The order banks are open up, including the plug-in, and they are not scheduling this week either. They've already planned out for the full month of May, so they're ready to move on to June. And so starting next week, here are some notes for the Escape for those June production dates. They are planning to schedule for 4 weeks of production. And for the gas and hybrid version, that does say in here, front wheel drive will be a priority for this the scheduling for June dates. It does say all wheel drive will be available in Elite, and some all wheel drive hybrids will be available in certain regions, but primarily it'll be front wheel drive ordering. And then plug-in hybrid will also schedule for 4 weeks of production as well. And again, that starts next week. So next up is the 25 model year Bronco Sport. Currently 175 unscheduled retail orders in the order bank. The order banks are open up. This week they are scheduling, again, cleanup scheduling, which means a dealer would need an allocation to get one scheduled. We have 0 allocations left. All of ours got used up. If a dealer happens to have one they didn't get used for some reason, they probably didn't have a retail order, something like that, they could have an allocation and they need to fulfill that. Here are some notes for those dealers. They need some Big Ben with the Black Diamond package. Also, they need some Badlands Sasquatches and Outer Banks Sasquatches as well to finish out scheduling for May. Those are really all they're looking for. So if you don't have an order like that in your system, then they probably won't use your allocation. So that's how that'll work. Because of that, exhausted availability, they really don't need to order or schedule any Outer Banks tech packages, convenience packages, or standard Big Bens, or standard Badlands, or freewheelings, or heritage editions. So those probably won't schedule. So if you have a dealer that has an allocation available, which probably aren't too many out there in that situation, they can fulfill and they can do more with the Black Diamond package on the Big Ben, Badlands Sasquatch, or Outer Banks Sasquatch. That would be the only options they're looking to schedule for. Now, for next month, though, they are going to be scheduling for 3 months. And this, from what I understand, this will be the balance out of job 2 next month for those June production dates. But the plant will be scheduled for 3 weeks. They will not be, looks like they will not be building vehicles the last week of June. It says, they said in here, all Big Bens will include the Black Diamond package, and they're going to schedule 0% freewheeling. So some notes for next week. So next up, 25 model year Bronco. Currently 848 unscheduled retail orders in the order bank. The order banks are open up, and you can go ahead and put those orders in, including a strop if you want one. We're taking strop orders at invoice pricing if you want to put one in. So we're taking those, and so feel free to do that. They are scheduling those at about a 2% take rate. But now this week, they're not scheduling at the plant. They're pretty much ready and done, filled up for May. So for next week, here's some notes for June production dates. They are scheduled for 4 weeks in the month of June, weeks of June 2nd through the weeks of June 23rd. Big Ben is going to be increased to 35%, and the 2.3 liter manuals will be available for scheduling starting next week for those June production dates. And they do need some 2.7 liter orders and some Heritage Edition orders. All right. Oh, and then Bronco Raptor, they are scheduled for 4 weeks of production as well in June. So, and again, that starts next week. Next up is a 25 model year Mustang Mach-E. Currently 258 unscheduled retail orders in the order bank. The order banks are open up, and and they are scheduling for cleanup schedule. So they are scheduled this week. Forgot about them. And they need dealers. Of course, dealer needs an allocation for that. We actually do have an allocation for Mach-E that hasn't been used. So we could get lucky and get scheduled this week. No notes in here about any constraints or anything. So hopefully this will be a great week that we'll get our last allocation scheduled for. And then next week, notes for the Mach-E is they are going to be scheduled for 4 weeks of production in June, and that'll be balanced out as well for the Mustang Mach-E. Limited availability on the premium sport package, sport appearance package, I should say. So only note there. So again, those are last bit there's for June information. All right, next up, 25 model year Explorer. Currently 977 unscheduled retail orders on order bank. The order banks are open up for scheduling, or for ordering, I should say. They are not scheduled this week. They are ready. They're full for May production dates, so they are not going to do any scheduling. And for next week, and let's talk about June production dates. That'll start next week, I should say. For Explorer, they're going to schedule for 4 weeks of production in June, the weeks of June 2nd to the weeks of June 23rd. Does say an improved mix of the 2.3 liter engines. So 62% will be the capacity for 2.3. So that's a really good note there for Explorer. Again, that's starting next week. All right. Next up is the 25 model year Expedition. Currently 1,328 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up for the 25 model year. They are not scheduled this week. They're already, again, full up on their production for May. So they're ready to move on to next week, which here's the notes for next week, which is going to be scheduled for June production dates, 4 weeks as well. Again, the weeks of 6/2 through the weeks of 6/23. Does say in here, note that the active will be 0%. They will not schedule an active. They need some trimmers, and they need some stealth appearance package platinums. So keep that in mind if you're a dealer that has no retail orders and you're needing to fulfill those. That's what you'd want to order to make sure you fulfill their allocations there. All right. Next up is the 25 model year Maverick. Currently 2,472 unscheduled retail orders on order bank. The order banks are open up for the Maverick. They are scheduled this week. They need to do cleanup schedule. They still have some slots available for May production dates. And for that reason, if a dealer has an allocation, again, they need an allocation, then they could get scheduled. Here are some notes. If you do have an allocation at a dealer and you need to use it up, they are needing some XLT versions with the FX4 off-road package. That might probably be the only way that you'll use that allocation. Very limited exhaust availability for the front-wheel drive as well as the trimmer version for the Maverick. Now, for next month, which starts for June production dates, here are the notes that'll start next week. They're going to be scheduled for 3 weeks of production. Again, they're not going to be producing the last week of June, so they're going to be making building vehicles the weeks of June 2nd to the weeks of June 16th. Not really anything in here other than no trimmers, so they won't schedule any trimmers starting next week for about a month, and 51% will be hybrid. So there you go. All right. Next up is the 25 model year Ranger. Currently 465 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up, and they are you can place orders. They are not scheduled this week. They have May production dates already slotted out and planned for, and they're ready to move on. And speaking of that, so starting next week, they're going to start scheduling for those June production dates, 4 weeks, the weeks of 6/2 through the 6/23, and there's no controls. There's no constraints or anything on any of their orders. So, all right. Next up is a 25 model year Super Duty. Currently 5,366 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up. They are scheduled this week for the Kentucky truck plant for the weeks of 4/28 through 5/12, and in Ohio the same dates. So both plants are scheduling. And again, a dealer needs an allocation for this to get scheduled. Like for us, we do have 5 available allocations. They say that only 2 are going to get scheduled this week, which is really weird. So, but we do have 5 available. So I know there's some people who put in some retail orders. So hopefully they'll get scheduled this week. They are needing some F350 XL, XLT, and Lariat orders with the 7.3 liter gas and without the gooseneck hitch prep package for a regular cab or super cab. They also need some F250, F350 XL, XLT, and Lariat orders with the 6.8 liter engine for regular and super cab without the gooseneck hitch prep package. So that's something to help them ramp up and hit full capacity on production. Very limited exhaust availability for the King Ranch, for crew cab version, for the Tremor off-road package, and then also for the console, the bucket seats with the console configuration, the F550, and the 4x4 axles that are available on the 450 and 550 and 600 with the 4.3 or 4.88 regular axle. So ratio regular axle there. For next month, which starts next week, they are going to be scheduled for 4 weeks of production. They are saying June production dates, but they still haven't scheduled for the last half of May. So we'll see. Maybe some May dates as well starting next week. And then the only notes I have is what we see every week in here about the XL and XLT 7.3 liter orders with the regular and super cab configuration. So, all right. Next up is the 25 model year F-150, currently 4,499 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up. They are scheduled this week for production weeks of 5/12 through 5/26. So it looks like they're trying to finish out this week with production for those late May dates before moving to June next week. Don't forget, 5.0 liter STX order is retail only. They are needing some 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine orders and some hybrid orders. Very limited exhaust availability for the Raptor R, the Tremor version, both 401 and 402. The all-terrain tire T74 option code, that's the 285/70R17, and limited availability for the 5.0 liter gas engine and the advanced heads-up display, which is standard in like King Ranch and Platinums and such. All right. And then for next week, they're going to be start scheduling for June production dates, and 4 weeks of production they're going to do in June. They need some 2.7 liter orders. They need some hybrid orders as well, a free demand on that. So you have a hybrid order, they'll get it scheduled. Does say consider removing the moonroof from the non-hybrids. So there's your constraint. So if you have a moonroof, that could hold up at least for next month. Maybe not for this week, but for next month. All right, next up is a 25 model year F-150 Lightning. The order banks are open up for that. We don't know how many unscheduled orders there are in here because they're all lumped in with F-150s. They are scheduled this week for the same weeks as F-150 gas and hybrid versions, the weeks of 5/12 to the weeks of 5/26. And very limited exhaust availability for the Flash. Everything else looks like could be okay. We do have an allocation that needs to be used for Lightning. So hopefully we like to have the flashes. So hopefully, I think we did put an XLT order in. So maybe we'll get an XLT scheduled for production dates. Now, starting next week for June production dates, they're going to be scheduled for 4 weeks of production, just like, again, the gas and the hybrid versions. Here is the capacity and the planned production rate for each trim levels. So the XLT is 20% of the vehicles will be XLT, 60% will be Flash, 14% will be Lariat, and 6% will be the Platinum. All right. And lastly, the 25 model year Transit. Currently 969 unscheduled retail orders in order bank. The order banks are open up, and they are scheduled this week. Again, cleanup scheduling, so dealer needs an allocation. We don't have any, so a dealer would need one of those to get scheduled this week, but they are scheduled for the weeks of 4/28 through the weeks of 5/19. And so just so you know that. Don't forget, important note, the orders with the Sync 3 with the 4-inch multifunction display have a better chance of getting scheduled than the ones with the AM/FM stereo with the 4-inch multifunction display. So put the Sync 3 on your order, basically is what they're saying. All right, and that's for this week. Now, for starting next week, just as a reminder, they are going to be scheduling for those in June production dates, 4 weeks of production for the Transit in Kansas City, and they need orders from dealers that committed to allocations from prior months. They're probably talking about e-transits. So, oh, that is e-transit. So that's e-transit. Transit, the same weeks, 4 weeks of production. High roof passenger is only 3% capacity on that. So there you go. And I think I skipped over F-150 and Ranger Raptor. They are all scheduled for 4 weeks of production. Only note on F-150 Raptor is that 60% will be 801A and 40% will be 802A. No constraints or anything on Ranger Raptor or F-150 Raptor R, other than the normal low production rate, right? That's just what it is. So on those. So, all right. Okay, I think I covered that. If you want to come in, you have any questions, I need this. We are going to be live tonight, so come on over, join us live, or drop your questions if you missed the live stream and want to still have your questions answered. Drop them down in the comments below, and I'll answer those the best I can. And hope for great luck for you. If you have an unscheduled retail order, again, this is the last week, so they're going to be very limited on what they can schedule. It'll have to be what fits in, what they need, what they have available for production to fit in for the rest of May for this week. But good luck to everybody if you have an unscheduled order. And other than that, I think that's all I have. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell notification turned on so you don't miss any of these videos. And until the next video, stay positive, be kind to one another, be kind to yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.